In this video, I'm going to talk about how we copy objects. Now, copying objects is something that we often do without really thinking about it, and it's now time to start thinking about, well, what's actually happening. So here's a class called student. Now the class has, student, as students do, have an ID, and that ID must be unique. In this system, we cannot have two students who have the same ID. Every student object must have a different ID. Now, you could argue for lots of very good reasons that this doesn't make sense, but in this particular system, I'm just going to say every single object must be different. Okay, and there are certainly, I'm trying to kind of come up with examples that sort of make sense, and there may well be, maybe this isn't the best example, but there will definitely be examples where we need to use this. So we've got an age and a name, and this thing here, don't get too hung up on it. This is basically just a global variable. Static means there's only one of it. So and it's owned by students. So it's sort of a global variable, but it's sort of not, because it's encapsulated within a student. So it's kind of good in a way. We can only access it through student, and student is in charge of it. But this is the thing that is basically keeping control of the unique IDs. So when we create a student, so here's our constructor that takes two parameters. We're going to initialize the age and the name, but then the ID is going to be initialized to whatever this value is, and then we're going to add 1. So the next time we create a new student, they will have the value 2 and so on. Okay. Now, what happens when we do this? Okay, so we've got student 2 equals student 1. Well, what's going to happen is student 2 is going to end up being a copy of student 1. And let's just see this happening. Okay, so let's just run this up. So student 1, okay, is age 15 and has ID 1, and their name is Bob. Okay, and if I create a student 2, we now have an exact copy of that. There we go. So we've got age 15, ID is 1, and name is Bob. And at this point here, we have basically broken the rules around ensuring that all the objects must have unique IDs. Now, it's worth pointing out that this thing here is not making a copy. This is doing an assignment. And the next video, I'm going to show you how to do assignment operators. However, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use something called the copy constructor, because we can create a new object using an existing object as a template. And here is how to do it. We use something called a copy constructor. And a copy constructor, as the name would suggest, is like a constructor. So it's got to be public. Now, it might be that you want your object to be non-copyable. You might want people to not be able to copy it under any circumstance whatsoever. And if that's the case, you just make this private. But let's have a look at the copy constructor. So just like this constructor, it starts public, but the object that we're going to pass in is going to be of type student. And I usually use the term original, like that. Okay. So what we've done now is we're passing in a student object into the constructor. And because we are inside the student class, we can actually see all of the private members of this. It's a little trick. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use the this. Now, this refers to these things here and this class here, as opposed to the original one, which has been taken in there. Now, you don't need to use this, but it's handy because it just says, okay, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about these things here. I'm not talking about the things that are in there. So it just allows us to separate them. So this dot age equals original. So we want to copy the age, that's fine. And the name also wants to be the original name. However, we need to now make an exception for the ID. We do not want to copy the ID from the original. We want to create a new ID. So now the ID is going to come from the global IDs. And then the last thing we need to do is add 1 to the global ID, so the next one will be original. So now we have what's called a copy constructor. Okay, copy constructor, like that. Okay, so how do we use it? Right, well, we're not going to use assignment. We're going to use the new. So we're going to create a new class. It's going to be of type student, obviously, but we are going to pass in as a parameter student 1. So let's see what happens now. And I'm going to step through this time because there's quite a lot going on here. So we've got a student 1, and student 1 is age 15, called Bob, and has the ID of 1. Now we're going to step inside the copy constructor, so F11 step in. So the first thing it's going to do is initialize all the attributes, which is fine. And now we come in. Now let's look at the original. See, the original student should be student 1, age 15, called Bob, ID 1. Okay, so that's the one that we initialized up here. That's this one here. Oops. Right, let's have a little go. So the original age is 15. So my age is 15. The original name is Bob, so this age is Bob. However, global IDs, oh crikey, I'm not quite sure why we've got plus plus. Oh, I need to maybe have a think about that. But the point is, it doesn't really matter in a way. We've done a plus plus somewhere where I'm not sure. But we've got a unique ID, and now global IDs has incremented to 4, and so we're off. So now student 2, it meets the rules. Okay, I'm not quite sure why it's gone 3 and not 2. I'm going to just have a little look at that in a moment, because that's annoying. 3 and 2. But the point is, student 2 has an ID of 3, and student 1 has an ID of 1. Right, let's just put a breakpoint on there and run this again, because I'm just a little bit flummoxed there. Right, what's going on? Right, so global IDs at this point here is 1. So we go into the constructor. Okay, oh, I think I know what's going on. And let's just go in here. So, global IDs. Let's just put a breakpoint on there. How many times is the constructor? So it goes there, and then we come down into here. Oh, interesting. Okay, well, I'm absolutely flummoxed. I will have a little think about that. Maybe you can figure out. Can you figure out why has global IDs gone to whatever it has gone to? It won't be in here. Oh, there you go. Global IDs. Why has it gone to 3? Anyway, the point still remains. Copy constructor. And if we want to make this non-copyable, I will just show you this very quickly. We make this private. So now, oh, hang on, so now we've got build errors. Okay, let's just get rid of that. So now it's saying you cannot copy it. Anyway, in the next video, I'm going to show you about changing this so that we can either implement or get rid of that as well. Because at the moment, we can still copy. This will still work, and it will still copy over. Global IDs will still be the same. So we need to just kind of make sure that we deal with that. Okay?